On Tuesday, April 16, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., 34 years old, was arrested and served 8 days in solitary confinement in a 6x6 jail cell for leading nonviolent marches and sit-ins against racism and segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. While jailed, Dr. King received a copy of a newspaper containing an article entitled "Call for Unity," written by a local white clergyman. The letter condemned Dr. King's and the protesters' activities. On the margins of the newspaper, Dr. King responded to the criticism with what historians consider as one of the greatest documents of the 20th century. Letter from Birmingham Jail.
Yeah. My dear fellow clergymen, while confined here in the Birmingham Jail, I came across your recent statement referring to our current activity as, quote, unwise and untimely. I think that I should indicate to you why we are in Birmingham. We are in Birmingham because injustice is in Birmingham. I cannot sit by idly in Atlanta and not be concerned about what goes on in Birmingham, because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Now you deplore the demonstrations going on here in Birmingham. And yes, it is very deplorable the demonstrations are going on here. But it is even more deplorable that this city's white power structure left the black community with no other alternative. For years we have heard the word wait. Wait. It is a word that rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. That wait has almost always meant never. We have been waiting. We have been waiting for more than 340 years. 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait, wait. When you see the vast majority of your 22 million Negro brothers and sisters smothering in airtight cages of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, and when you feel your mouth start to stammer and your voice start to stutter because you can't explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to the amusement park that was just advertised on television, and when you feel reinforced within you and your other brothers and sisters a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then perhaps you will understand why it's so difficult for us to wait. 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 Such an attitude stems from the vast misconception of time, a belief that there is something in the very flow of things that will inevitably lead to the cure of social ills. Well, my friends, time is neutral. It can either be used constructively or destructively. And I am beginning to believe that the people of ill will are using time more constructively than the people of goodwill. No, we must use time constructively in the knowledge that the time is always right to do right. Now, I have a confession to make to you, and that is concerning the white model. You know, I've almost come to the most regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block in his stride towards freedom, it's not the Ku Klux Klan. It's not the White Citizen Council, but the moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice. I'm talking about the type of person who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. Now, those of us who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. No. We simply bring attention to the tension that is already there so that it can be dealt with and worked with in the appropriate manner. I mean, this country must come to see that the Negro is caught up in the great zeitgeist. And with his black brothers and sisters in Africa, and with his brown, yellow, and red brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, South America, and Asia, he is moving with jet engine-like urgency towards a promised land of racial and economic equality. The Negro has many pent-up resentments and latent frustrations, and he must release them. But no. This is not a threat. This is not a threat, but a fact of human nature that has been proven over and over again through the course of human history. But I have not said to my people, I have not said to my people to get rid of your discontent. No. I have not said to my people to get rid of your discontent. I have simply said to channel this normal and healthy discontent into positive outlets of nonviolent direct action. And you call this activity extremist? Brethren, the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kinds of extremists will we be? Will we be extremists for love or extremists for hate? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice, or will we be extremists for the extension of justice? Perhaps this whole world, perhaps this hemisphere, perhaps this continent, perhaps this nation, perhaps this region, perhaps this state, perhaps this city right here needs a few nonviolent extremists. Now you show a lot of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. Why is it that we encourage our participants to obey some laws and disobey other laws? Well, the answer lies in the fact that there are two types of laws: unjust laws and just laws. Well, you ask, what is the difference? Well, let's discuss it. A just law is a man-made code which is consistent with and agrees with the moral code of law. I'll be the first to advocate everyone to obey just laws. We have both a moral and a legal duty to obey just laws. Conversely, an unjust law is a man-made code which does not agree with and does not square with the moral code of law. We have a moral obligation not to obey unjust laws. Let us never forget that in Hitler's Germany, everything Hitler did to the Jews was legal, and everything that the Hungarian freedom fighters did to liberate the Jews was illegal. It was also illegal to aid and comfort a Jew in Germany. It was also illegal to aid and comfort a runaway African slave here in the United States. Let's look at this another way. Who is it to say that Alabama's legislature and Alabama's officers were democratically elected? For decades, all sorts of devious means have been used to prevent and to undermine Negro voting in Alabama. In fact, there are some counties in Alabama for which Negroes represent the majority of the population, but yet there's not one registered Negro voter on the books. So then how can one say that the legislatures in Alabama and the laws enacted in Alabama were enacted under a democratic process? These are the type of things that we are protesting about. And I have one last confession to make to you, and that is concerning the church, both black and white. Don't you know that each and every Sunday, 10, 9, 10, 11 a.m. in the morning, on elevated pews with their fancy robes on, saying, with Martin Luther King and all those civil rights people always marching about, always sitting in about, always protesting about those social issues with which the gospel of Jesus Christ has no concern. And I have seen ministers commit themselves to completely otherworldly religions, making a strange, unbiblical distinction between the body and the soul, between the sacred and the secular. How could the gospel of Jesus have nothing and no concern with us? I hope this letter finds you in good health and good tidings. I hope that in the future we can come together not as pastors, preachers, rabbis, bishops, and priests, but as fellow human beings. Yours for the cause of peace, love, and hope. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
On Tuesday, April 3rd, 1968, Dr. King spoke at the Mason Temple Church of God in Christ in Memphis, Tennessee, where 1,300 sanitation workers were on strike against companies for their unfair labor practices and treatment of workers. Dr. King came to Mason Temple to speak to the sanitation workers and their supporters. This would be Dr. King's